This conference will now be recorded.
Hey friends, let us start this session in a minute. I know most of them are trying to join. Just 1 minute and we should be able to start the session. And request everyone to please be on mute because this makes many of them disturb. Let us mute ourselves and listen to the session. Thank you. Let's fine. Let us start the session. Very good evening for everyone. Thanks a lot for joining us on this very beautiful session by name Tech Talk on malware analysis for beginners. I know many of us are interested in such a session because these days we can see malware analysis and cyber security has become very, very prominent across industries, and this is global. So let us not waste our time and start the session. And I really thank Dr. Anshu Sharma who accepted our request and contributed his time here. And giving his time is very valuable for us. And we also have Dr. Srini Balasubramanian, who has joined us, and he will be also speaking about the session and recent trends about cybersecurity for a couple of minutes in 5 minutes. So thanks a lot, sir. So I'll just brief about smart data labs. So most of the time we can see that in this COVID situation, most of the students are helpless, and this is an opportunity where you can gain your internship or do your workshop or have a certification program. So we do provide three of them, and this can be done remote. Okay, so this is just a brief about smart data labs. We are authenticated by Government of India, and we have a tied up with an educational council where we can give a valid diploma to most of our students. And we do work on few niche technologies like cybersecurity, IoT, AI/ML, and blockchain. So these are our few missions, and this is what I was discussing, that we work on so and so technologies. And ideally, you can see that most of our team structure are from the industry experienced people, and we can give you most possible inputs that you can be learning it straightforward. Okay, so today's session that we have Anshu Sharma, who is also from industry. If anyone is interested to work on malware analysis or any forensic activity or any cybersecurity activity, definitely Dr. Sharma has got good experience, and currently he's associated with an MNC, and he has very good experience for the past 13 years, I guess. and definitely he'll accommodate us, give us time to support you as well. So in general, cybersecurity, I know cybersecurity would be a very vast word, but what is it we can do in cybersecurity are mentioned here. Like cybersecurity, people can be specialized for web, network, mobile, cloud, embedded, which is IoT, bug hunting, and ethical hacking. The same way, in AI/ML, you can have use cases solving many use cases for smart cities, doing some sentimental analysis, doing a chatbot and stuff like that. And IoT, I know most of them have gone through IoT phase, but IoT to solve some use cases to apply in robotics and do some rapid prototyping end to end is what you have to learn. And there are few advanced technologies like FPGA and automotive and 3D modeling is what also we can support. Blockchain, yes, blockchain these days is more prominently used for data integrity, where if you want to know what is trusted and what is not trusted, people enable blockchain like technology in few of the solutions like biometric, educational, fintech, and others. So all these use cases can be definitely learned by individual. So I'll just take some brief about internship. So this particular internship, if someone is interested, you can please approach us. And this internship that we are going to give to every student will be a 5-week program. And this 5-week program is organized in this way. So first 3 weeks will be your learning stages. And from third week, you'll be able to pick one topic and get associated to one of the professional or industry expert. And week 3, week 4 will be your implementation, and week 5 would be your final development. So week 5, you will be actually having a hold of a project, and you should be capable of explaining the whole project. So that is how we have planned, and all this would be a remote activity. So as I was talking, yes, we have recognized Government of India certification that will be given for even internships. We'll give you a valid diploma kind of a certificate if you're coming for internship. And if you want to join us for workshop, that's also well and good. We have a 3-month program, 6 months program, and 1-year program as well at a reasonable prices. And anyone who's joining us for internships or workshop, we are giving away a free IPv6 certification that's from US Internet Society. And most of you would have seen this particular banner that is from DSCI. And DSCI has few problem statements. And anyone who has attended here or who might be viewing our recording, if you are interested to work on this, do associate with us. We can together build us problem. We can together solve this problem statement and come down with a small outcome, and that can be submitted. So the last date is April 30. So if you are interested, do connect with us before April 29th, and that should be good. Yeah. So anyone who wants to register, you can definitely register in brt.ly remote internship 2020. And this is our contact details. You can definitely connect with us. And thanks a lot. So we'll definitely, I want Dr. Srini Balasubramanian to give 2 minutes of his time to introduce himself and talk about today's technologies.
Yep. Hi. Good evening. Good evening, all, everyone. This is Srini here. Thank you, Srini, for a quick brief. I just take only a few minutes. I'm from a industry, working in the industry, cybersecurity for past 20 years. When we talk about malware, when you look at today, today business situation, uh, Google, for example, Google is like doing 180 million malware blocking on daily basis. They are blocking 180 million malware. It just increased. It's a tremendous high growth rate in the past 1 month. It's going to continue because this malicious actor, they are utilizing opportunity to do all the malware related stuff. Now, what from a corporate and from a individual perspective, what you guys has to do is you need to have a malware engineering, malware operations in plan before any business continuity is going to happen. When we talk about malware engineering, you need to have a very plan and actions with your plan of malware engineering, your solutions, and then from operation perspective, your solution is tested. When you talk about tested, using the red team and blue team exercise and simulate the malware and make sure that it is properly tested, and then you have a sufficient people, process, and technology in place. That is what you have to do before any malware issues going to happen in your corporate. Now if you look at this now today, most of the corporates, it's actually they are failed and they are struggling. That's what the challenging is happening across the globe, but they are picking up how to mitigate this malware analysis by introducing a new software and a new processes and the new cybersecurity training to their employees and students, and that's what currently happening. Okay, now what we have to do now, need to make sure that we need to create a malware analysis ecosystem in your environment. And at the end of the course, hopefully you will understand how to institute and operate malware analysis. And also you need to make sure that your corporate and your academia is sustainable in case of any malware attack. That's the key message I would like to leave it to you. Now, that's all from my side. Thank you for the opportunity. Now, I will leave it to our technology expert, Dr. Ashu Sharma, to come on board and walk through the malware analysis. If you have any questions or anything you need to know, and I hope you have a email communications, and you can send an email to Smart Data Labs and get start working with them. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, sir. So I would request Dr. Anshu Sharma to take it over.
Thank you, Srinivas, and thank you, Smart Data Lab, for organizing this beautiful uh, webinar. So I am Ash Sharma. I am a malware researcher, and I'm in industry and working for uh, antivirus detection systems. I have done my PhD in malware analysis only. So hope I can give you something that will be useful for you all. So I think Srinivas have already shared the agenda of the talk. So first I'll introduce who I am. I have, we actually, Cyber Security Society. This is a NGO that organize these security programs, cyber security awareness programs throughout the country. So I'm also working with it. So let's start it. So our agenda is I'll introduce the definition of malware and what is the evaluation of these malware. Then I'll give some cryptographic implementation in malware analysis. Then I'll give some malware examples also with demo. Then I'll discuss some of the challenge I have seen in the corporate industry in malware analysis, and we'll surely discuss some tools that can be useful for you to learn and can be easy to get some job in malware analysis. Then at last we'll discuss something like what are the opportunity for the students in this field. So before starting to talk about malware, we'll discuss some of the terms that you have already heard about, like bugs, vulnerabilities, threat, exploits. So the first question is, what is a malware? So the thing is, the malware is a software, and associated word is malicious software. So what is it? So we can first define a software. What is a software? In software, we do some like programming for a task with a given functionalities. When we get some SRS, software requirement document, which will give you the what functionality you have to implement in a software. When we release that software, so those requirements should be fulfilled. Okay, but with those functionalities, there are some other functionalities also that are called undesirable functionality of that software, and we usually call it as a bug. So if that bug is uh, like it is considered as not involving in security of the system, operating system, or the ecosystem of digital devices, then we can leave that bug. But if that bug can be used to exploit something, it can be used to do harm on other devices, then we call it as a vulnerability. And once the vulnerability is published, like if it is known to everybody, then that vulnerability becomes threat. And if that threat is not resolved, then it becomes the risk. Okay, so for these vulnerabilities, an exploit is written to take advantage of this vulnerability and do some attack on the user. So that if we use that exploit to write, like we implement that exploit, then that exploit is called as a malware. Okay, so is it clear? Like any doubt on this terminologies? Any
Sir,
doubt from
maybe,
audience?
sir, I think it's clear. Maybe we can open a 5-minute session at the end of the whole presentation. That will be
Okay.
helpful.
Okay, like I thought like it will be somewhat interactive,
Understood.
so it will be good. Okay, fine. So we can say a malicious software is a software which have some
Yep.
bugs. Yeah, anybody?
Yeah, Anshu, Dr. Anshu, now you said detected and then published. Published, you have highlighted any specific reason highlighted?
Yeah, see, like if it is published, like that means that vulnerability is known to all the people. That include white hats also. That means the people who are at the defense side and the people who are black hat also. That they are very interested in uh, like writing malwares and all. So if that vulnerability is not patched and it is published, so it can be used for malware. Okay, is it clear?
Yep, clear. Yeah, please, you can proceed. Next one. Yep, thank you.
Okay. So all malware have three parts. So first is attack vector. Attack vector is how that malware attack to the system. Like what is the different behavior of that malware? I'll discuss in the second slide. Then we'll go in trigger. It have a trigger which is used to initiate that malware. If you talk about virus, it need a trigger. If you click on that virus executable, it will run. So malware have an optional thing. There are some malwares which doesn't need any trigger. But like if some malware have to execute on the system, then it needs some trigger. Either it is can be user triggered or some software triggered. And the another thing is malicious activity. And these activities are actually like how the victim can be harmed. These malicious activity can be deleting some files on your system, productive system, or tracking or stealing some information, or like encrypting, like ransomware, encrypting your personal data. So there are three parts of this. will, okay, what you see on this images, there are some words which are actually malwares, viruses, backdoor, worms, botnet, trojaners, and associate, we have some pictures. So you can easily map the concept, what you're thinking about it. Like if we talk about virus, so it infects some legitimate program. After infecting some legitimate program, it can do some malicious activity. Like it will can delete your legitimate programs, and it will create a dummy links over there, like you have seen in new folder viruses. Similarly, backdoor have a behavior, like it will create some backdoor session by which some remote attacker can access your system, control your system. Similarly, worms, they can multiply, they can propagate, but they don't need any triggers. They exploit some network services, but they reproduce, they spread over the network. So these are worm. Then bots are like robots. They can be controlled by some remote attacker. And Trojan horse, any malicious program that comes with a legitimate program, we can say it as Trojan horse. So these are behaviors. The malwares are classified on the behavior, how they will attack on the system. So this is called a attack vector. So all the three components are clear. So we'll move. So there are two generations of malwares. Further, these are classified: first generation malware and second generation malware. We'll talk about second generation malware later. And whatever first generation malwares are there, we have already discussed: backdoor, Trojan horse, rootkits. These are the malwares which are first generation. These are also called static malwares. Why they are called static malwares? Like whenever they propagate, they just clone themselves. The next generation, like whatever child process will be there, it will be similar to that parent. So they don't change their structure. So like now we'll discuss about how antivirus defense systems work. So there are two components: one is client and one is server. Server, you can assume antivirus, whatever labs they have. So what they do, they collect the malwares or all the files, and some malware analyst will be sitting there, and they will identify whether that file is malicious or clean. If that file is malicious, they will create some signature of that file. And now I'll discuss what is a signature. I'll give an overview, like a signature is a unique property that can identify a file. So if we can create such signature, we distribute those signature to client. Like we use the this antivirus system on our user, like production systems, like Microsoft Defender, your McAfee. Others vendors also provide these antivirus system. So these client softwares, they scan all the files on the system against these created signatures. If any signature got matched, then they will evade, like they will delete that file from the system and do whatever recovery it needed. So this is the way like antivirus system works. So here we'll discuss some cryptography aspect. I assume that you people already know about cryptography. So basically, we use two techniques, like two algorithms in cryptography. One is encryption, where we use some key on one algorithm, and it will create some unreadable form of that file. Okay, but you can always have the option, if you have the key, you can go back to the original file if you use this, the same key. So if we use one key here, so by using that algorithm, you can encrypt that file to another form, that is unreadable form, and you can use the same file, same key and same algorithm to convert it to back to the plain text, that original file. So this is actually a encryption techniques that we use in cryptography. Another is hashing, that is very important in malware analysis. Hashing are the one-way functions. What create some like if you use some algorithm, hashing algorithm, and convert a file to another form, and this is called a digest. But in hashing, you can't go backside. So the first property of this is hashing algorithms are on one-way function, and the second thing is you can't generate this whatever digest will be there, it will be the small size, constant size. You have heard about MD5, SHA-1, SHA-256. Okay, I'll show you how to generate these digests. Here I discussed about signature, virus signature. So if we create some hashes of these files, so these files will these hashes will be unique property to that file, and that is the property of hashing. The digest, there is a property called collision resistant. If you have a hash, you can generate another program, like another file which will be having the same hash. So you can say like this is if we are creating a file like hash of a file, so this hash will be unique to this file. You can't file another file with the same hash. Okay, is it clear or like some doubt? Okay, so we'll move forward. So there are two type of signatures. One is strict signature, that is like hashes. If we create a hash of a file, that will be unique to that file, so that we call as strict signature. And another is heuristic signatures. Heuristic signatures are like these signature will be found in malicious files, but can be found in uh, clean files also. I'll discuss later what are these loose signature. Okay, so first I'll show you how to create signatures from there. Can you see my virtual machine?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So suppose we have file, this one, I will copy this file in this. I want to create a signature of this file. So there is a tool, cryptographic tool, OpenSSL.
Sir, if you don't mind, can you just increase the font size?
Is it fine or like should I increase more?
At least 2 more points, please. For me, it looks like the wordings are overlapped, so I thought I'll just request for.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
this is legible. Thank you.
Okay. So we can use OpenSSL tool, and if I want to create SHA-256 of the file that I have copied, bintex.exe. So I'll give. So it will create a hash that is called digest, just I have discussed. So this can be a signature, strict signature. Okay. So, okay. So now I'll discuss about loose signatures. So here is the code. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I can
So
see a
this
virus
is,
structure. I can see a virus structure page.
yes. So this
Okay.
is a snippet from a, yes. So this is the code which having a snippet that is taken from a virus. Okay. So if you see what is a virus, the virus definition is like it will search for legitimate programs, like whatever productive softwares you have on your system. It will search for that, mostly executables .exe files. Okay, and it will infect that file. Infection means it will copy itself in some place in that legitimate program. Okay, so our attack vector is like searching a file and infect it. So in this code, if you see, like there is a like we are searching for, like we are opening some directory, like if we are opening a giving you a directory, root directory. This function is open directory, giving a root directory pointer. Then it will search, like it will search in that whatever it will, like executable files it will find, it will infect. This is the infect function. Okay, this is the logic to scan the directories recursively inside the root directory. This is my root directory, and inside all the directory will be searched. Okay, so this is my attack vector. So can I take this snippet as a signature? Because this behavior will be in virus itself. Viruses only will search the directory and it will infect the program. So if we create some, this is actually a high level language like C, but similar logic we find in assembly code like hex codes and write signatures. So these type of signatures are called loose signature because they can happen in benign programs also, but in very less cases, very less often. Because like if you search for some music files, like if your player is there and it will search, it will create a directory of whatever files is available on your system. So it will use the same structure, that same code like this. So that like, but in this infect will be in less like often in the clean files. So this can be a loose signature for me. So there are two type of signature, strict signature and loose signature. Okay, so every anti-malware companies work like this. So first they collect data from data partner, like whichever those companies those provide malicious software. Then client, they will upload files from the client systems also. Some, if they find some suspicious files which get hit by some heuristic behavior, they will upload that file. And so those files are collected, and by user submissions. User submissions are like, if I find some file and I want to check whether this file can be detected by Defender or not, so I'll go in Microsoft Defender submission portal and I'll submit it. And then these files will come to the malware analyst. Then malware analyst, what he will do, he will analyze that file. If he finds some malicious behavior, it will label it as a malware. Then if it is clean, and it will leave it. Okay, the another phases, it will do the labeling of families also. Now you got like there was a malicious activity, it will be surely malware. Now what is that malware? Is it Trojan? Is it virus? Is it worm? Or some other malware family? So you have to find that family. So you are searching for the attack vectors. Hi Srinivas, can we hide these like I'm seeing some this audience icons on this right side. Is there an option to hide these?
Which one, sir? This audio, is it?
No, audio. This there are like participants icons are coming now on the
Maybe you
screen.
can just you can
So this
close
just
it from your end,
bad.
because I'm not able to see the participants links in your screen. You are able to see the whole screen at your end, but I think only you are able to see the participants list. Uh, Maybe on the top, if you hit on the user icon, right, this will get hidden.
Just drag, sir. Just
Okay,
drag,
yes,
drag to the
yes.
left, drag to the right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
So once the family is identified, then we create signatures and provide these signature to users. So this is the scenario how antivirus companies work. So for practice purposes, you can use like there are a lot of repository where you can find samples. The best one is that I suggest is Inquest. It will be like they have samples with proper labeling. So if you want to analyze a ransomware, then you can get a ransomware from there. Or if you want some other like phishing related malware, that also is are provided on this repository. Okay, and then whatever I'll show you like demos and all. So this is my repository. I'll upload all the samples here. And there are like open research repositories also that you can go through, and they also provide downloading options. So we'll discuss about how to do the basic analysis, how to identify any file. Then I'll discuss about there are two type of analysis. One is static and another is dynamic. And I'll discuss what are the indicators we have to see in a file to give the verdict whether the file is malicious or clean. And what are the tools for that I'll discuss in this. And dynamic analysis we have to do it is on isolated environment, that the virtual environments that we'll discuss. And then we'll discuss what are the challenges that like static analysis faces. So what are packers and cryptors. Then if we have that much time, we'll discuss about debuggers also. So like there are not only huge number of files, type of files. How you have heard like .doc, .exe, .dll, .com, .txt, .pdf. So if you find some file, first you have to decide whether that file is doc or executables or clean file like text files, PDFs. So how you will like identify, and the first question is how operating system identify these files. Everything on computer system is in the form of files. So how operating system identify whether the file is txt, whether the file is PDF, or whether the file is executable. So there is a structure of a file. It have two components, header and payload. So payload is the actual data, and the header is metadata about the data, actual data. So if the file is executable, so it will be having one header which will state whether the file is executable and where, like what type of executable is it? Is it DLL, the .com, .sh, or something else? So the structure will be something like this. There will be a header in a file and there will be a payload. Okay, so the example here is of executable. So first few bytes of any file which will tell you what type of file is it. Like I'll go to the virtual environment. This is my virtual machine. If I want to know, no, this is already, this files have extension, so you can easily identify it. But if I talk about some file which doesn't have any extension, if you see a file like this without an extension, how you'll get to know like what type of file is it? So the simple thing is you can open this file in hex editor and you can see the first few bytes. So in here the 5 bytes are MZ4D5A. This is the ASCII code of that, and this is hex code. So we copy this hex code. Every file have their type signature. So we can find file type signature. There is a Wikipedia page. So if the file is starting with 2321, so that file is script type. Okay. If the file is starting with 0A, 0D, 0D, 0A, then that file is PCAP file. This is network related. Okay. So what was the ours first characters? 4D, 5A. 4D, 5A. That means the file is executable. PE file, that is portable executable. Okay. So operating system also read the files likewise. So you can identify any, like if the file doesn't have any extension, so you can identify what type of file is it. Okay. So in static analysis, what indicator we see which will give you a overview whether the file is clean or malware. The first indicator is digital signature. Is the file is having digital signature? Is it signed or not? You have to check. Digital signature is like if some software developer develop a software, he have to take some certificate from third party such that this vendor is trusted and he is developing trusted applications. Okay, so how to check whether a file is having digital signature or not? So there is a tool called SigCheck. So if we check SigCheck and that file name, the file was one without any extension. So it will tell it is unsigned. That means the file is not signed. It is not from tested vendor. Okay, and I'll show you an example of the file which having trusted vendor, like trusted softwares, clean softwares. We'll copy this file in the same directory, and we'll check this file. Click check. So here you can see verified signed. Then that means this file is already signed. So you can say, okay, this is 90% clean, but still some vendors provide signatures to this malwares also. That you have to check. That is the second process. But first, like beforehand, you can see like this is 90% clean. And the file we were analyzing, this is unsigned, that you don't know about it. So what are other indicators like imports, exports? If the file is executable, then you can go for import and export. Imports are those functionality that are used like from operating system. Operating system provides some APIs to run some services. So you can you have to specify before that execution. You have to specify to the operating system like these all APIs you will be needed in your execution. So it will it will load those DLL which will be having that functionality. Okay, and for exports, like these are in the type of DLL files. DLL also executable. They provide some functionality to other executables. So they provide some other like functionality. What functionality they provide to other DLLs like executables are called as exports. And what are the resources inside that file? Like, is there any embedded file, or is there any malicious script inside embedded in the resources? Generally, software having some resources like some image files or some script files or something. So you can check that things also, those indicators. Then what are the string presents in the executable? And what is there any URL embedded in the like executable that you can check? What are the imports also comes in strings itself. If you search the strings, I'll show you. We'll take the example of this file only. What is this file? We'll check. So the file we have already checked that this is executable. Okay, there is a tool also for that, that is called exe info. In this, it will show you what type of file is it. It will show you the compiler also, like the file is executable and it is compiled by virtual C++ compiler. Okay, and the file is not packed. I will discuss later what is packed or unpacked. So if we want to see the strings inside these executable, so there is a tool called bintext. You can install and check. It will give whatever embedded strings are there inside the file. So it having this file, this generally have all the executable having this statement. So there are some strings wait for single object. These are the APIs like can be used in clean files also. API of write file in operating system. That means this file is writing something. It is using some string operations also. It is using kernel 32 DLL. This is general strings. But you can see like one URL is there. Okay. So we can see copy this URL and search on internet what is this URL. So best website to check this is VirusTotal. in this VirusTotal portal, they have like multiple, like more than 60 antivirus systems running simultaneously. So we are going to check URL. We'll click on URL. This is the extra information came with it. So we want to check what is this URL. So this URL is malicious. You see something is there. Like some detections are there. Two anti-malware companies are saying this URL is malicious. So this indicator will say like, okay, maybe this is a malicious malware. Another strings we can check. I know this string is used for remote access. I do malware analysis, so I know, but you can go and every time you can search on Google and you'll get to know what type of strings is this. And this is for padding. And we can see like some URL is also there. This IP address is also there, which is having port 443. That means this file is getting connected with HTTPS connection. 443 is used for HTTPS, right? So we have this indicator also. Shell execute exa. It is used to execute some shell command. Okay. So it having CMD this thing string also. That means it is using some command prompt. So can we like give some verdict on these type of strings? So what strings we found? We found shell execute exa can be used to run any application. Okay, like some command you have to execute. You can use this API. It is using some socket APIs. It is using some file read write APIs also have shown write file. Those type of APIs also. We got one IP address also. We got one URL. We got this string cmd.exe, and we got this string also that is used for remote shell prompt. So these many indicators you have. So can you give some verdict about it? What will be this file doing?
It can be a Trojan.
Trojan vector is it will come with some your legitimate program. Okay, so like
I think it's a backdoor. It's trying to connect back to the attacker system.
Yeah, see, it is getting some remote shell.
Yeah.
Yes,
means
so I think
somebody
it's
from
connecting back to
remotely-
the
Yes, so it can be a bot also.
Nice.
Okay, bot also will be like communicating with CNC server. Okay, so like there is like possibility it can be backdoor, it can be bot. Okay, but it is executing CMD command. Like bots usually have very less set of commands, but if you are using CMD, that means you have complete control on the system. Okay, so that means you have tell correct the file is backdoor that is offering a remote shell to an attacker. Okay, and what is the like communication medium? It is HTTPS connection. So is it clear? So this type of analysis we can do, like basic analysis. There are very complex malwares these days, like You can't rely on the strings of the executables only. So this is called like static analysis. Static analysis means you will not execute the program. We haven't executed the program, but we have find some indicators from like signature, like certification information, like string information. So we have collected some passive indicators from the file, and we have given the verdict. So we can check that file, what type of file is that on VT also. So for VT, we need to create a signature of this file. So signature we can create by, I told you one method like OpenSSL. Otherwise, I have like one software that is HashMyFile. It will create hash of the file. So this is my SHA-256. I will copy SHA-256 and then I'll go to Aristotle.com and then I'll paste the SHA. So you see, like there are 72 antivirus systems on this. Out of 72 antivirus systems, 64 are saying this is malicious. So if any file is getting detected by more than 50% of like anti-malware system, then you can say, yeah, this is malware only. Okay. Now we want to know what type of malware is it. So some antivirus companies cannot able to detect what type of malware is it. Like they have given generic names, downloader, but see, most of the antivirus companies are detecting it as a backdoor because there's the malware we have seen, the indicators are backdoors. See, Microsoft Defender is also detecting it by backdoor. Very clear? So this is the identification of malware by using static analysis. How much time we have now?
Sir, actually, we just crossed it. But maybe you
Okay.
can just logically give a conclusion and then proceed.
Okay, so we have discussed about first generation malwares like virus on the basis of, we are classifying these malwares on the basis of attack vectors. Now there are second generation malwares. Now these days we are dealing with second generation malware. From 2013, now people are not interested in writing new malwares. They are interested in how to evade the traditional detection system that we use. Like we use static signatures, hashing. So if hashing have a property, if you change a single bit of a file, the hash of the like signature of the file will change. So they are using this property to evade the detection system. Like the first type of malware is encrypted malware. It having two components. It will be having one decryptor, which is your cryptography logic, and then your first generation malware or malicious payload. Okay, so this encryption algorithm will encrypt the payload and the payload will become unreadable, like unreadable form. You can't see anything, static indicators. If we are seeing strings and all, you can't see in encrypted form. So these type of malware, like malware authors, they start using this technique to evade detection system. That is called packers, and there are two type of technique to do this stuff. Is first is packer. Packers are the you can say compression softwares, like you use WinRAR, but WinRAR you have to use, you have to need some third-party software to decompress it. But these type of packers, they are embedded in the executable itself. So they are called as self-extracting archives softwares also. They have decompression software also included it, which will decompress the malware content. Okay, the another thing is cryptors, which will encrypt the body that we have seen, like it will encrypt the malicious payload so that you can't find the indicator itself. Okay, so I'll show you one demo for that also. I have a software like one executable is there. If we see strings inside that software, so you will see all the strings are encrypted. So you're not finding any like readable strings inside the software. So that means this malware can be encrypted, and you have to, if you want to like confirm whether this file is like encrypted or not, so you can use a tool called DIE. DIE. So in this, there is a term called entropy. If your file having entropy more than like 6.5, that means the file is pegged. Okay, so every file having multiple sections, so you can see like this is the text section. The text section is having high entropy. That means this section is encrypted. So whatever like executable will be having the code, that is executable code, which is kept in .text section. So your executable code itself is encrypted form. Okay, so if you want to like find like what type of file is inside, there is a method like you have to do the debugging. So for debugging, you have a software called debugger. I'm using x64 debugger. So whenever encrypted malware, whenever these type of malwares, when you execute these malwares, they will start executing the decryptor. This is your decryptor. Okay, it will unpack the payload. Okay, for unpacking, it needs some virtual space. Virtual space means you need some space in the RAM. So there are some APIs which you have to call before reallocating some memory. Okay, then this whatever encrypted part will be there, it will be decrypted and it will be copied in another part, which will be like later start executing. See, the first entry point was here, but after decryption the entry point become different. Okay, that means there is a wrapper over it. So if you want to find what is inside there, you have to execute this wrapper, your decryption loop, until it is fully completely decrypted. At that time you can copy the file. I'll show you how to do that. So this is my program where I can't find any string. So I'll put it in debugger. Okay, so this is my file. I executed it. It came in the entry point of the decryptor. Now I have to search where this decryptor will allocate the memory. So I have to put a breakpoint on virtual one API is there, which is used to allocate memory on RAM. So I'll put breakpoint there. Okay, and then I will execute this program. So my breakpoint came. Okay, here that API is called. See here, kernel 32 virtual alloc at this point, right side, you can see. So this is the memory it reallocated. So I'll go and follow in dump. So this is my dump. Here you can see in like bottom left. So I want to see when this memory will be written. It has reallocated the memory. Now it will decrypt and write the decoded part on this memory. So I'll put a breakpoint on this memory whenever this memory is written. Okay, so I'll run the program. So see, if I step by step I'll execute this program, so you'll see something is getting written on that memory. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you can see like something is getting written on this. So I'll execute the whatever my decryptor is, I'll finish that operation. Okay, so the program have written on the memory. Okay, so this is and I have told you like any executable will start with mz. So we can see anywhere mz. Yeah, see, some executable is there which is written at this memory. Okay, what I'll do, I'll copy this thing to another file. So I'll copy the complete thing to a file. I'll select the memory, I'll select it, I will copy, save to a file. Okay, so I'll save this file on desktop. I'll give a name inner file .exe. Okay, go back to my desktop. Okay, so where is my file? Inner file.exe. Yeah, this one. So this was the file inside my program. So now you can see some strings inside the executable. That means the file is got like this is the actual payload of the malware. So we'll see what is the behavior of this file. For tracing the behavior, there is the utility called procmon. I can trace the process that I'm going to start, that is inner file. Inner file.exe. And I want to explore the processes also, what all processes are getting started. So there is a tool called Process Hacker. It will show whatever process are running on your system. So now we will see what are the activities this process will do. This was my inner file. I'll execute it. See. This is the process. It is running. I'll stop it because it will do. Okay. So I stopped it. I already know what is that program, but I'll check from here. See what it is doing. It is searching files in every directory. All the directories are scanned and it is searching for a file. Like it searched ipc.config.h file and it created a file with the name of .ryk. RYK is a file that are like created by Ryuk ransomware. So that file was a Ryuk ransomware which is encrypting the files with the name of .ryk of my system. So this is the behavior we have seen here. You can see easily identify this is a Ryuk ransomware. Okay. So these are type of cryptors. We can detect them by checking their behavior on virtual machines. So dynamic analysis we did on this file. We have seen what are the registry entries changed, file operation, what is written on your system, what are the network connection. This also we can see, and how to see memory string, that I will show you. If you go in Process Hacker, if you click on the process properties, in memory there is memory, and here is the string. You can search. It will search strings which having minimum length of 10. You can see the memory strings also. You can find indicators here from here also. Okay. And activities we have seen from Procomon, and processes we have seen from Process Hacker. If you want to see network activity you can see from here. You can close the registries, you can close the file operations and processes also. So this file doesn't have yet any network activity. Okay, right now it was encrypting the files. So these are the indicators and tools you can use for this. So there are similar type of malwares that can evade the detection system. So like we have time constraints, we'll skip these. So like if you are pursuing some like career in malware analysis, there are these type of teams are there in malware analysis. Threat hunting, the team, what it will do, it will crawl the repositories like available on internet, and they will search like what are the malicious files available on internet. They will download those files and they will give it to malware analysts to analyze those files. So this is one team. If you are good in like web technologies and scripting like Python and some machine learning, then you can go in threat hunting. Another is threat intelligence. Threat intelligence is from client system, how you get the information about like what system is suspicious and what file you have to upload on the system, your system. So that is called as threat intelligence. you have if you want to go in this team, you have to learn there are some transaction based databases and their query languages. So you can go for ELK stack or Costos, that is by Microsoft, and then Spunk. Spunk is also the tool which we'll use in threat intelligence, and this is open source only. So you can start like practicing on this now itself, and you need to know about data science also, how to analyze the data. And then malware analysts, you have to have a good knowledge in operating system internal, and then you should have knowledge of assembly codes, script language, debuggers and decompilers. And then for signature writing, there is a signature writing team where you need some like reversing, like how to debug the file and how to like decompile the file to like understandable code from the binary codes, and knowledge of OS APIs, what API, what it do, you have to get that knowledge. And then there is the technical writer which they do blogging and all. For that you need like some documentation softwares and like searching on blogs and all other blogs and all. And there is a offensive team also called red team, which will like test your anti-malware system. It will create some like malwares and all, and it will test whether your detection system will detect those malwares. So if you want to go like in this team, you have to learn Kali Linux and Metasploits and all. So these are the like opportunity in this malware analysis. So in this talk, I have taken the content from this book, Practical Malware Analysis. And this is my contact address. So like if you have anything like want to know any doubt about these things, whatever I have discussed, you can always contact on this email. Thank you. So like I'm done with, yes, Srinivas.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was really very great insights that you have given. And I guess the demonstrations that you gave face by face at least gave us some examples on how malware improved by itself, and it came to a second generation now. And these days you can see there are automated malware systems which straight away target and do some ransom activities and get some very financial benefit out of it. So thanks for giving us great insights. So the audience here, whosoever have questions, you can definitely ask for the next 5 minutes. I'll just open the corridor for 5 minutes, and we can straight away ask questions to Dr. Anshu Sharma.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Sir, how can we create an environment like virtual machine as yours? It's like
Yeah, there are like many softwares like VMware is there and VirtualBox is there. I'm using VirtualBox. This is open source, like free available. So you can install it and you can get some Windows image also. I can share you the links of those images also. Microsoft provide them for testing purposes. So you can download the images from there and you can start using your virtual environment.
okay, thank you.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good
Hello.
noon. Yes.
Sir, you're talking about all the published malware. What about the unpublished, sir? How they are tracked out?
See, if the vulnerability is not known,
Yes,
then
sir.
it is called zero-day attack.
Mm.
Okay, so like
Yes.
what anti-malware companies do, they go for behavior of the system. If some
Okay.
system is infected with some zero-day attack, okay,
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
there are some logs on that system.
Yes, sir.
We call it hives.
Okay.
Okay, so these threat analysts, I discussed about threat intelligence.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So those teams, they will extract information from that like that system by using these hives,
Mm.
and they will like check what process have done this disaster,
Okay, sir.
and that process will be identified and it will be uploaded on the system. Then we people will be identifying that file.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. But I have learned many tools, sir. Actually, the session was very nice, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hi. The session was very nice and informative. I was more interested on the how malwares bypass AV and hide behind detection. So if it's not a problem for you, can this PPT be shared so that I can search for specific headlines, headers for in the Google, and maybe look up on that further?
We will share the PPTs, and I think video will be also shared. Right, Srinivas?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay,
video will anyways be uploaded, and you can definitely. So I'll ask Anshu Sharma to also share whichever is relevant. Maybe he'll be able to share us the PPT, and definitely you should be able to access it.
Yeah.
So I have one last question. Anyone who would like to take one question?
Ashok, what was the name of the book you recommended for malware?
Practical malware analysis.
Okay.
So like, yeah, it will be in video. You can see, like, I will share the PPT. You can see.
Okay. Anyone else would like to go for any question? Because I
Hello.
also have one question.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Really, thank you for this very nice, informative talk. I just have one question. If I find some malware in some software, and where to report it? Should I report it to any
See, if you
any
find some
virus?
malicious, yeah.
Sorry?
If you find some malware, or like
Yeah.
you have some suspicion on some file, so there are like portals for these systems.
Sorry
Like
to interrupt you, sir.
Microsoft.
Others, please mute your mic. Extremely sorry for that. Sir, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So every anti-malware companies, they provide their portal, submission portal, like Microsoft submission portal. You can search on Google, and they have a link like where you have to upload the files. You can upload the
Okay,
file, and you can give your comments also. If you did
Okay,
some
right.
analysis, then you can give that comments. You will get back. These people will get back to you.
Okay, right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
So maybe I'll take up a last question, sir.
Yep.
These days, we see a lot of phishing attacks happening, and
Yes.
we can see that people target by sending a PDF. So
Yes.
if I see an email with some office documents or any PDF documents,
Yeah.
I mean, based on your presentation, I can see MZ, which is executable, but PDF is, does PDF come under executable, or does it call an executable by itself? How does it
No, see,
happen,
like,
and how can I stop it? Yeah, how can I know it's a malware?
See, whenever you open some document, some like notification will come. You have to enable some like macros or something, right? Have you
Yes,
seen
true.
that? So in
Yes,
that macro,
macros anyways.
yes, so in that macro, they write some codes. Generally, they download some file from internet. We analyze daily, like most of the files come like this only. We call it like TechBot or emotates. These people send in, put malware in these files. PDF also having macros. So you have to extract macro from that file first. First, I have actually, for today class, I have applied, like I planned for that session also, but because of this time limit, I can't do that. But there are tools like if you are analyzing some PDF tool, so you can use PDF stream dumper. So that tool will extract your macro. It will extract if that macro having a JavaScript or VBS script or any other script. It will extract that script. You can see that script that will be in like high level language only. You can see what document it is downloading. Mostly they download another VBS script, and that VBS script will be executed. That VBS script will execute and it will download some executable, and that will be your final malware.
ਭਾਂਡੇ ਰੱਖ ਦੇਣੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੋਣਾ ਆਲਟੀ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਰੱਖ ਦੇ
Hi Srinivas,
Thanks
isn't
a lot.
like yeah.
Yes, that was helping a lot, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. I think we are all good with the session. Thanks a lot for your time. Basically, your time is very valuable for us, and I guess we have learned a lot of things. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks everyone.
Okay.
Thanks for joining. So I'll end up the session here itself because it would again extend along. So any questions you can definitely email either to Anshu Sharma Sher, or you can also email to us and we can take it forward. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks again. Thanks for your time. And maybe I know Sir would like to showcase many of the things. If time permits, we'll organize a part 2 of it and see how
Yeah,
it
yes,
goes based on the interest. Yeah.
yes.
Thank you. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thank you so much.